the coolest thing about Trek was that we got to walk for early pioneer, and I chose Jane Elizabeth Manning James, who Tamu just talked a little bit about. And I love Jane. She is one of my sheroes. Let me tell you all about Sister Jane. So Jane, she had a dream, and in this dream, she saw the prophet Joseph Smith, but she didn't know who he was at the time. Years later, she hears missionaries preaching, and she recognizes their message and connects it to the dream she has. And she believes what the missionaries say, and she joins the church. She then goes to her family and she says, okay, like the woman at the well, you guys, I found something. It is so good. It has saved me. And the saints are gathered in Nauvoo. At the time, Jane lived in Connecticut. And I want to go to be with the saints in Nauvoo. So she convinces 8 other members of her family to go on a trek with her to Nauvoo to be with the saints. And Jane and her family, they set off. They get as far as Ohio, and Jane and her family are denied passage onto a steamboat that was supposed to take them the rest of the journey to Nauvoo. They had already put their luggage on the steamboat, and they said, no, we don't let black people aboard this boat. And so they didn't get their luggage back, they didn't get their money back, and they were dejected. And Jane's thinking, how am I going to be with the saints? This gospel has saved me. God has told me that I need to go and be with the rest of the saints. So she rallies her family together, because when you're saved, that light is in you. And she rallies them and she says, okay, I know that God wants us to do this. He will provide a way. Can y'all stick with me? We're just gonna walk there. It's around the corner, just 800 miles, okay? They walk 800 miles and they get to Nauvoo. And this journey was hard. It was so hard. They're welcome in Nauvoo. Their lives are great in Nauvoo, but something changes. The prophet Joseph Smith is killed, and the saints are suffering persecution, and the decision is made that they now need to go to head west and eventually end up in the Salt Lake Valley. So Jane goes to her family and says, we need to continue. We need to be with the saints. And her family says, Jane, look, we've walked with you. We've talked with you. We're not going with you, boo. So at this time, Jane is married to a man named Isaac James. And she says to her husband, all right, we need to go with the saints. And alone, they make this decision that they're going to go and they're going to journey west. And we know what happened to the saints on that trail. They suffered innumerable trials. Jane was just like the other pioneers. She suffered. She had children on that journey. They get to the Salt Lake Valley, and it's hard. It's very hard there. They have to build this whole city. And Isaac comes to Jane and he says, look, this is not like Nauvoo. The people are not treating us the same as they did in Nauvoo. I do not want to stay here. And Jane says to him, God told us to come here, and God wants us to stay here. Isaac, I don't want to leave. And Isaac did what some husbands do. He bounced. That means he left rapidly. He left. Ladies, sometimes life is like that. You know, we get saved. We get something that is so good. We know that it is good for us. And we think, I am doing all the right things. Lord, I have walked 800 miles for you. Lord, I have now journeyed across the trek. I've found a good man in the gospel. I've had numerous trials. Why is my life so hard? Why are these things happening to me? Because sometimes we think, you know, God's favor is predicated on what we're doing in our lives, but life is not really like that. Jane was a good woman. She did what God told her to do, and now here she is in the Salt Lake Valley. She is a single mother, and this is a time where nobody has anything. He left her with the children. She doesn't have money. She's got to figure out how to provide for them, but Jane would not be moved because the gospel of Jesus Christ had saved her, and so she would not be moved. She would not let it change who she was and what God told her to do.